came to the United States in 2004 when I was 19. Back then, everything about America still felt too big. The highways, the houses, the sky that never seemed to end. My family settled in a small town in Wisconsin, a quiet place surrounded by cornfields and empty country roads. By 2007, I'd already learned to drive, speak some English, and found a girlfriend. Her name was Mai, a Hmong girl whose family lived about 30 minutes from us. She was the only part of my new life that made this strange country feel like home. That night, the one I'll never forget, started like any other weekend. I had driven to Mai's house after dinner. We sat on her porch, talking and laughing about her classes and my new job at a machine shop. Her parents had gone to bed early. Time slipped away, and before I knew it, midnight had come. Outside, the air had that heavy stillness that only small American towns have late at night. No dogs barking, no cars, just the faraway sound of crickets and the hum of streetlights. Mai looked worried when she realized the time. "You should go home," she said softly. "It's late already." "I'll be fine," I told her. "There's hardly any traffic." But she frowned. "The road through the woods, I don't like that road." I laughed. "You're just scared." She didn't laugh back. She reached out and touched my arm. "Toe, promise you'll go straight home. Don't stop anywhere." I promised. I kissed her goodnight, got into my old Honda Civic, and started the drive home. The car was a 1990 model, loud engine, faded blue paint, one headlight dimmer than the other. But it ran, and that was good enough. The first few miles were peaceful. I rolled down the window, let the cool air in, and turned up the Hmong song CD Mai had given me. The road curved between endless rows of cornfields, their dry leaves whispering in the wind. When I reached the stretch that went through the forest, the radio began to hiss with static. That wasn't unusual. This part of the county had terrible reception. I turned the volume down and focused on the road. That's when I saw her. At first, I thought it was just another late-night walker, a woman in a long white dress walking along the shoulder of the road, her back to me. Her black hair hung down to her waist, swaying with each step. I slowed down. It was strange to see anyone walking here at this hour. There were no houses nearby, no stores, nothing but trees. As I got closer, I flicked my high beams on. The light caught her. She didn't turn around. She just kept walking, slow, steady steps, her dress brushing against the gravel, her pale arms hanging loosely by her sides. Something about the way she moved made my stomach tighten. It wasn't just slow, it was too slow, like she was gliding more than walking. I passed her carefully, trying not to stare, but as my car rolled by, I glanced through the side mirror. She was gone. Just gone. I hit the brakes. My headlights shone down the empty road behind me. Nothing. No woman, no movement, not even dust in the air. My heart started to pound. I blinked hard, thinking maybe my eyes were tired. It was late after all. Maybe I'd imagined her. I pressed the gas again and kept going. A few minutes later, I looked up and froze. She was in front of me again, walking in the middle of the road this time, the same white dress, the same long black hair. I slammed the brakes so hard that my seatbelt locked across my chest. The car screeched to a stop only a feet away from her. My hands shook as I leaned forward over the steering wheel. She wasn't moving. She was standing there, head slightly tilted, her hair covering her face. The engine idled roughly, the headlights flickering over her. Then she turned her head. not slowly, but in a sharp, unnatural motion, like a broken doll's head snapping toward the light. I couldn't see her face clearly, just a glimpse. Pale skin, hollow eyes, lips that looked too dark. I hit reverse, heart slamming in my chest, and backed away as fast as I could. The car jerked, tires crunching gravel. Then I shifted to drive and sped past the spot, afraid to look anywhere but straight ahead. When I reached the highway again, my hands were trembling so badly I almost missed the turn. I made it home around 12:45 a.m. The house was dark. Everyone was asleep. I turned off the engine, took a deep breath, and told myself it was nothing. Maybe I'd seen some girl hitchhiking. Maybe she went into the woods. But deep inside, I knew that wasn't right. The road had been empty, and the way she turned her head, no human moves like that. That night, when I went to bed, I left the lights on. I didn't tell anyone what I saw, not my parents, not Mai. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. But it didn't. That was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up later than usual. My body felt heavy, like I hadn't slept at all. My mom was already cooking breakfast downstairs, and the smell of rice and boiled eggs drifted up to my room. I tried to shake off the memory of the night before. I told myself, "To, you were just tired. You imagined her." But the feeling in my chest, that strange pressure like someone was sitting on me, stayed all morning. When I stepped outside, the air felt colder than it should have been. It was mid-October, but it felt like winter had arrived early. My old Honda Civic was still parked in the driveway. I noticed something strange right away. Dirt streaks on the passenger side door, long, thin marks, like someone had dragged their fingers down the metal. 5 lines, perfectly spaced. I ran my hand over them. They weren't scratches, more like smudges, faint but greasy, as if someone with dirty hands had touched the car. A chill ran through me. But I told myself again, maybe it was just mud from the road. That day at work, I couldn't focus. The sound of the machines clanking and buzzing around me made my heart jump every time. My coworker, a guy named Brandon, noticed. "You good, man? You look like you saw a ghost." I forced a laugh. Didn't sleep well. When I left the shop that evening, the sun was already setting. I stared at the road leading home and decided to take the long way, avoiding the forest route. I didn't want to drive past that place again. That night, I went to bed early. I thought it was over. But around 2:13 a.m., I woke up suddenly. Not from a sound, but from a feeling. Someone was watching me. The room was dark, except for the orange glow from the streetlight outside. I turned my head slowly toward the window. There, behind the thin curtain, a shadow stood. A shape, faint, but clearly human. My breath caught. I sat up, frozen. Then, as I blinked, the shadow moved away, not like someone walking, but gliding, fading into the dark outside. I got up, heart pounding, and pulled the curtain aside. Nothing. Just the still street and my old car parked under the light. The next morning, I checked the yard. There were footprints in the dew, small ones, bare feet, leading from the street to my window and back again. That's when I knew this wasn't over. For the next few nights, sleep became impossible. I started hearing whispers. At first, they were faint, a woman's voice murmuring in a language I couldn't understand. Sometimes it sounded like Hong, but not quite. Then came the dreams. In every one, I was driving down that same road. The woman in white would appear ahead, standing in my headlights, but this time I couldn't stop. My brakes wouldn't work. She'd turn her head toward me as I sped closer, and I'd see her face, gray, lifeless, her eyes hollow like deep wells. Then I'd wake up gasping. Mai noticed something was wrong. "To, you look sick," she said one afternoon. "You've been pale for days." I wanted to tell her everything, but when I tried, my throat tightened. The words wouldn't come. She touched my arm gently. "You should come to the shaman's house this weekend. My uncle is doing a healing ritual." I nodded, even though I didn't believe much anymore. That Friday, after work, I decided to go visit Mai again. I took the main highway this time, well lit, no forest roads. But halfway there, my car's engine light came on. The steering wheel jerked. The car started to slow on its own, even though my foot was pressing the gas. "Not now," I muttered, tapping the wheel. The car rolled to a stop in the middle of a quiet road. No houses, no lights. I turned the key. Nothing. The radio flickered to life suddenly, even though I hadn't touched it. Static filled the speakers. Then a faint, whispering voice, a woman's voice, saying something again and again. I leaned closer, trying to make out the words. It sounded like she was calling a name. Not mine, someone else's. Then the back seat light turned on. I froze. Slowly, I looked up into the rearview mirror. In the dim glow, I saw the outline of a head, long black hair falling over pale shoulders, sitting perfectly still in the back seat. My vision blurred with fear. My skin went cold. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just whispered, "Please go away." And then, knock, knock, knock. 3 sharp knocks on the inside of the rear window. That broke me. I screamed, threw the door open, and ran into the field beside the road. The grass was tall and wet, cutting my legs as I stumbled through it. Behind me, I heard the car door creak open. Then, a voice, soft, almost kind, called my name. "To." I kept running. When I reached the distant glow of a farmhouse porch light, I collapsed on the gravel driveway. The owner, an old white man in a robe coat, came out with a flashlight. "You okay, son?" I couldn't even speak. He called the sheriff. By the time they drove me back to my car, it was parked neatly on the shoulder, like nothing had happened. But what made my blood freeze was the muddy handprint on the inside of the back window. The sheriff joked that maybe some kids were messing with me. I didn't argue. I went home that night and told my parents everything. My mother's face went pale. She said, "To, you shouldn't have talked to her." "I didn't talk to her," I said. "You did," she whispered. "When you said, 'Please go away,' you answered her." That weekend, Mai took me to her uncle, Chief Neb, a Hong shaman who lived 2 towns over. His house smelled like herbs and incense. Strings of silver jingle rings hung on the walls, and his eyes were calm, like he'd seen everything before. He listened carefully as I told him about the woman, the dreams, the handprint. When I finished, he nodded slowly. "This kind of spirit," he said in Hong, "is a lost soul. A woman who died suddenly and doesn't know she's dead. Sometimes they follow the living because they think we can help them." "Why me?" I asked. "Because you saw her," he replied. He prepared a small altar, eggs, incense, a bowl of rice, and a chicken feather tied to a red string. As he began chanting, the air in the room grew heavy. Then, in the middle of his chant, he stopped and looked up sharply. "She is here," he said. My body went cold. He continued the ritual, faster now, his bells ringing louder, his voice rising. I felt the room shift, the air thick, electric. The candle flames flickered even though there was no wind. And then, a sudden cry, faint but sharp, echoed from somewhere inside the house. A woman's cry. My mother screamed. The shaman shouted something in Hong, a command, fierce and urgent, and threw rice toward the altar. The cry faded. When it was over, I was shaking all over. The shaman sat back, exhausted. "She's gone for now," he said. "But you must not drive that road again. That's where she waits." I nodded, and I didn't. Not for a long time. But deep down, I knew she wasn't gone, just waiting. After the ritual, I thought life would go back to normal. I avoided the forest road at all costs, sticking to the main highways. Even then, every time I passed a dark stretch, I could feel her, like a cold shadow hovering just beyond my vision. At first, it was subtle, a flicker in the corner of my eye, a whisper that vanished when I turned my head. My dreams, however, were relentless. She appeared night after night, standing silently in the middle of the road. Every time I tried to swerve, but my car refused to move. I would wake up drenched in sweat, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. Then, 2 weeks after the shaman's ritual, things got worse. It was a Wednesday night. I was driving home from Mise, taking a new route that curved round an abandoned farm. The road was narrow, lined with dead trees whose branches scratched against my car windows like long, bony fingers. And there she was, standing at the edge of the road, motionless, hair covering her face. My stomach knotted. I slammed on the brakes, and the car skidded into the gravel shoulder. But she didn't move. She didn't blink. She just stared. This time, when I looked closer, I could see her feet were bare and caked in mud, though it hadn't rained. Her dress was torn at the hem, as if she had been wandering for years. A sudden memory hit me, the muddy handprint on my back window. She followed me. My hands trembled as I tried to start the engine. Nothing. I tried again. Nothing. And then I heard it, the faint, high-pitched whisper of a Hong lullaby. "Tsistako mus, tsistako mus." Don't go, don't go. The voice was soft, almost pleading, but there was an edge to it, something hungry, something desperate. I froze. She took a step forward. The moonlight glinted off her eyes, black, hollow, and endless. I felt the air around me tighten. The hairs on my neck stood straight up. I remembered Zivnib's words. She was a lost soul, a woman who died suddenly. Sometimes they attach themselves to the living. I whispered her name, though I didn't know it. "Who are you?" She tilted her head in a way no human could. Then, slowly, the wind picked up, rustling the dead leaves along the road. I heard a scream, not loud, but piercing, echoing across the empty fields. I slammed my hands on the steering wheel and shouted, "Go away!" She paused. For a moment, I thought she might leave. But then she laughed, a soft, hollow laugh that made my stomach twist. She stepped closer, almost gliding, her bare feet leaving faint streaks in the gravel. I panicked. I reached for my phone, dead, battery drained, no signal. I was trapped. Then a memory of the shaman hit me. Tsivnib had said, "If the spirit is strong, it will not leave easily. You must call its name, acknowledge it, and then offer something to release it." I didn't know her name. I didn't know what she wanted. But I remembered what he had done with the rice, the eggs, the incense. I grabbed the only thing I had in my car, a small notebook, a pen, and a plastic bag of snacks I had bought from a gas station. My hands shook as I opened the bag and whispered, "I don't know your name, but I bring you this." I threw the bag toward her. The wind howled. The bag floated in the air, spinning, then landed at her feet. She stopped. Her hair shifted. I glimpsed her face, for a fraction of a second, human, sad, lonely. I shouted, "I'm not your enemy. Please, go back." And then, in a moment that felt like hours, she screamed. A high, raw wail that cut through the night. I slammed my eyes shut. When I opened them, she was gone. The air felt lighter. The road was empty. My engine roared to life. I didn't wait. I drove straight to Mai's uncle. Tsivnib was waiting. I told him everything, in a rush of fear. He listened, then shook his head. "She is strong. Her spirit is tied to a violent death. A man killed her years ago, and she never knew peace. She has wandered these lands, lost and angry. She follows because she is lonely, and because she mistakes the living for the one who hurt her." I swallowed hard. "Can she be stopped?" The shaman nodded. "Yes, but it will require another ritual, one more powerful. You must not face her alone again." That night, under the shaman's guidance, we prepared the offerings. Eggs, rice, incense, candles, everything arranged carefully. Tsivnib chanted, his voice low and steady. He asked me to sit and focus on my breathing, to remain calm. Suddenly, a cold wind blew through the room. The candles flickered. A shadow passed outside the window. "She is here," Tsivnib said calmly. I felt it, a presence pressing down on me, silent, watching. The shaman continued chanting, louder now, slapping the small drum in rhythm with his words. Then I heard it, the whispering, closer this time, right behind my shoulder. I froze. "To." I held my breath. Tsivnib's voice grew stronger, commanding the spirit. For a moment, the air went completely still. And then, a scream, a cry of anguish that shook the walls. The candles went out. When they relit, she was gone. Tsivnib exhaled deeply. She has returned to the other side. For now, she is at peace. I collapsed, trembling, tears running down my face. I couldn't speak. I had survived. But even now, sometimes, when I drive late at night, I see a flicker in the corner of my eye, a pale figure in white, watching from the roadside. And I remember her sadness, her anger, and how close I came to joining her. I learned one thing that night. Some spirits don't die in peace. Some linger, lost, until someone cares enough to acknowledge them. And some of us are lucky enough to survive. After that night with Tsivnib, I thought the ordeal was over. I felt lighter, calmer, like a weight had been lifted off my chest. I avoided the forest road entirely, sticking to well-lit highways and staying close to friends and family when driving at night. But the memory of her never left me. Even in broad daylight, I sometimes thought I saw a pale figure in the distance, a woman in white, standing at the edge of a field or under a tree. I told myself it was my imagination, that my mind was haunted by fear more than spirits. It wasn't until a month later that I learned the truth about her. Mai had visited her grandmother in a nearby town and returned with an old Hmong tale. Her grandmother spoke of a young woman who had lived decades ago in a village far from ours. She was gentle and beautiful, loved by everyone. But one night, her husband killed her in a fit of rage. Her body was never properly buried. She was left by the river, forgotten. The grandmother whispered, "Some spirits, especially women who die with anger and sorrow, do not leave this world. They wander until someone helps them find peace." My blood ran cold. That sounded exactly like the woman I had seen. I realized then that I had not just encountered a ghost, I had encountered a lost soul, desperate for someone to see her suffering. Chief Neeb's ritual had worked. He had helped her move on, even if only partially. And me? I had survived. Barely. For the next few years, I avoided driving late at night alone. Every time I passed a lonely road, I said a quiet prayer, a greeting for any spirits I might see, a warning that I was not their enemy. Life slowly returned to normal. I finished school, worked at my job, and remained close with Mai. Yet, even years later, I would sometimes feel a chill out of nowhere, or a whisper in the wind that sounded like a soft sigh. And each time, I remembered her, the woman in white with hollow eyes, lost in anger and sorrow, walking endlessly along that dark, empty road. I learned to respect the unseen world, to honor spirits, and to never take lightly the quiet warnings of a small town at night. Most importantly, I learned that survival isn't just about escaping danger. Sometimes it's about understanding it, acknowledging it, and helping it move on before it consumes you. Even now, when I tell this story to friends or family, I notice them shiver at the parts where I describe the road, the pale figure, and the whispering. And I know that if they were there, they might not have survived. But I did. I survived. And the woman? Somewhere, I hope she finally found the peace she deserved.